video I'm trying to react to really quick. Couple of them. Couple. So that's your cup of tea, hang out, because I'm chilling for a second. Because the thing you don't want to do is just be mad that you're playing a video game. That defeats the entire purpose of playing a video game. So, can only handle 4 ranked games. Not terrible. Like an hour and some change. That's not bad. A few losses, 1 win, a little sporadic there. But, we live. So what I'm going to do is watch other people suffer. The biggest disaster in Overwatch history. Not Overwatch history. It's about Overwatch. But in esports history. Let's see what they're talking about here. I think I've seen this like months ago, but I haven't seen it in a while. So let's get it.
Overwatch was this very successful game. Global, people loved it.
Nobody anticipated how meaningful and big the success of the game would be, obviously.
When it was announced that Blizzard was starting Overwatch League, obviously everyone was very excited.
I think it was initially pitched as like, NFL for esports.
Yeah, that's our
very
vision
true.
For how we're going to celebrate and reward our players is build a league that is like the NFL, only global.
This is true. When Overwatch League first came out, like it was kind of a big deal for me, at least, because Overwatch 1 was like a thing that kind of took over my gaming life. I mean, I'm still playing Overwatch, obviously, for extended periods of time, but like just how much I cared about Overwatch, how long I played. Instead of playing an hour and a half or hour and 15 minutes, it was like 2, 3 hours, 4 hours sometimes. So when they came out with Overwatch League and they had this whole NFL approach, and this guy here, I think he's New England's Patriots owner. So like when they're talking about doing football, like a football style Overwatch League, like I like football, don't watch it that much because I don't really have the cable set up for it. I could try harder and go watch it, but whatever. But yeah, like they set up the league to kind of be like this football thing. Like, hey, you live over here, you can go see Philly, you can go see Washington, you can see, Shanghai. It was also international, so it was like kind of crazy. So it was a really super big deal. But I didn't quite know how they were able to fund this. Like it seemed like a very expensive thing to be doing. So. Hey, they had some free money running around. Football was making some crazy money. Activision was making some crazy money. So I guess they were like, okay, this is worth to expand into.
How we're going to celebrate and reward our players is build a league that is like the NFL, only global.
By the way, shouts out Washington Justice. That was a Justice. We didn't really win that much, but, I got to rep. I got to rep the town. You know what I'm saying?
He's killed 4 players now on his own.
6v6 too, bro. It was so electric. Oh my god.
I was a bit worried because it sounded like a logistical nightmare.
There was conversations of people being like, they have to be having a hard time setting this up.
True.
I think over time, the league lost a lot of its personality. Like it just started to feel very
true.
Bland.
Well,
before XQC, I don't know if XQC was already stupid rich before this, but this was when XQC got my radar. Dude was the freaking guy, dude. He brought in a lot of people to Overwatch, but now he is rich, stinking rich. He's probably making more money than the league itself. The league doesn't exist anymore, so duh.
You want your team to win, right? They're going to have to play what's better.
From the viewing perspective, it was certainly boring to see the same heroes
Yes.
in every map, in every match, right?
I was not able to speak publicly about OWL while I worked at Twitch, but you better believe that I was the guy in every f***ing meeting going, this is stupid and you're all stupid.
At a certain point, I'm like, what the hell do you people want?
We don't want goats, that's for sure. I'm gonna tell you that right now. We do not want no stinking goats. Tired of that. That was so freaking trash, bro. It was so trash.
Boy culture. That is how Activision Blizzard is now being described here in this new lawsuit.
The danger here is YouTube go, you know what? We don't want to be associated with you because T-Mobile don't want to be associated with you. Coke don't want to be associated with you.
We were doing more than fumble in the dark. We were running into walls. Like it was just double shield. There was no hope.
In the midst of that, they were behind the scenes working on a not sequel, then sequel, everything changed kind of thing.
There is a community that wants
not sequel. Let's put emphasis on the not sequel. Overwatch 2 is Overwatch 1 minus 1 tank and a more extensive eShop. So, God, dude. They really, really bumbled this one a little bit.
A lot of Overwatch 1 back, and I think a lot of the magic was lost 5-5. I think more and more people will start to realize maybe we did have it better.
There was no need for Overwatch 2. It was a cash grab,
Samito.
scam that made them abandon the first game for years.
Hard language.
Kind of like a perfect storm of
hard language from Samito.
An esports league.
It's insane how many bad decisions Overwatch League made over the years.
Celebrate love.
Oh yeah, everybody loves ads, by the way.
We were 11
Get some
years
flowers
old
for your loved ones, okay? Don't buy them. Go outside. Go pick them off a tree. It's free. And if it's in someone's yard, run away when you pick it so they don't get mad. And give it to your mommies and your dads, your sisters and brothers, and anything in between. Come on, it's love.
It has been something like 17 years.
God, Temple of Anubis
opened the door to
some of those
a
maps,
new adventure.
And some of those maps were tough to play in. I'm not gonna lie. Hanamura, Temple of Anubis, sometimes Temple of Anubis, especially if the dude was a cracked like Widow on the other team. I think there's another one that sucked to play in. Sometimes Volskaya sucked to play in. Oh my gosh, I don't miss those maps.
My friends, the wait ends right now.
Overwatch.
Soldiers, scientists, adventurers.
When Overwatch was released on May 24th, 2016, it was something new.
True.
A MOBA-style hero shooter that rolled many of gaming's favorite elements into one mind-blowing offering.
It felt like sort of return to the Saturday morning cartoon heroes of my childhood and all that. Like ability shooters are common now, but at the time that was still something that was relatively new. And I think it wasn't just me. I think the gaming community in general was very excited about it.
There was a palpable sense of excitement, and before long, Overwatch blew up, both in terms of active player base and the hours they spent playing the game.
More than 7 million players have joined Overwatch's fight.
Holy crap.
Across all 3 platforms, 190 million hours of the game have been played since launch on May 24th.
It's so smooth, it's so fresh, it's so dynamic, it's so responsive.
Hanamura.
It's just absolutely ridiculous.
God, I hate Hanamura.
It is my favorite game. It goes without saying. This is my favorite game right now.
Overwatch was designed with esports in mind.
Look at
from
that.
the very beginning, some regional competitions like Apex Korea showed us just what was possible in this new game. But all of them were eventually absorbed by Blizzard in preparation for the launch of the Overwatch League.
We designed Overwatch from the ground up to excel as a competitive game. We're looking for the top players in the world and the team owners who will form the Overwatch League. There will be regular schedules, professional contracts, free agency, baseline minimum salaries and benefits, providing more stability for teams and players.
This was, when this first was coming out, it was super exciting because, you don't really hear this type of stuff. It's either really like boom or bust when you're playing esports. Right now, it's hella bust, but, usually it's just boom or bust. So, you're either really eating or you're not eating at all. When you're talking about minimum salaries, like baseline salaries, free agency pools, like qualifying rounds, what was the under Overwatch League? There was another contenders. There's contenders. There's like a pipeline to get into the league. This is kind of a big, big thing. But, again, the question was, how are you going to afford this and sustain this? How? I don't know. It just seemed like a lot to do, and there's a reason why a lot of esports, they don't pay a lot. It's just, not the most marketable thing. So, when you see, again, now, like, when you come around these days, that kind of previous era, when you see, like, Fortnite making insane amounts of money, League of Legends making insane amounts of money, like, on these big main stages, like, that was kind of like a relatively kind of new thing. So, to see that they're trying to set a baseline for everything, kind of make it stable, it was kind of a big deal. But again, my mind was like, I don't know how you're going to continue to afford this. Like, I was thinking at first, you believed it because the crowds were hype, everybody was showing up, those seats were filled, the events felt big. But like, if you slipped up anywhere, like you didn't sell out, you didn't kind of keep the revenue up while you were going, it felt like you were a couple of mistakes away from bankruptcy. Like, you had these stadiums that you're renting out, like the overhead, like the amount of staff that you have to keep this on the level that it was. I mean, it was just kind of a lot to contend with, as far as I was seeing it.
When it was announced that Blizzard was starting Overwatch League, obviously everyone was very excited. Everyone thought it was going to be a huge step forward for esports. It was definitely seen as this moment where esports was going to become legit, because that's obviously something esports has struggled with for a long time. And they had this talk of like, we're going to have 50K minimum salaries, and the players are going to have healthcare and pensions, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be this huge scale thing.
These guys are getting paid to do this. The league minimum is 50 grand a year?
Yes.
And how high does it go potentially?
So there currently isn't a salary cap. So the scale is as good as, and is, to me, demand of the players.
Now, so Overwatch League, is that like, Mike, is that like the NFL? Like, is that today's version of the NFL, only an online
yeah,
game?
Megan, this is how they've dialed it up. I mean, they're now envisioning Boston playing against New York, or Boston playing against Houston, and Miami playing against Houston.
Players flocked to the scene, chasing new opportunities and glory. And chasing a different kind of opportunity, investors began to pour in as well.
Football, baby, Patriots.
The Kraft Group came on and officially became the backers of the Boston Uprising. Then it was kind of like, oh, this is big. And I'm pretty sure that the Kraft Group then kind of like, you know how millionaires are, they all hang out together, I guess. And they were like, oh, I own an esports team, you should own an esports team. And they all got around and started buying and paying for esports teams. And that's when it was kind of like, oh, we have like something really, really big here. And it's bigger than I think anybody thought.
This is being touted as the next NFL compared to the Premier League of the future. What's your vision for this? Is that for real?
Yeah, that's our vision for how we're going to.
The Devils themselves. Two really, really rich devil dudes making a lot of money, playing with a lot of money, and not being really great people.
Celebrate and reward our players is build a league that is like the NFL, only global. And it's going to take some time, but what will make it really easy is having great partners like Robert Kraft.
As far as actually valuing the franchise,
like, what did it cost you to start the franchise roughly, and what do you think it's worth right now, a short time later?
It's been reported within like the $20 million range for the first teams. That's fairly accurate, but that's not what you would actually pay.
You think you could sell it for a lot more than that now, though?
Absolutely.
Not now.
The fans, though,
not anymore.
It wasn't just about the money. This was the dawn of a new era, an enormous new offering, and the people were here for it.
113 players from 19 countries have been signed, all of them with the single goal to be crowned the Season 1 champion. The wait is finally over. It's time to kick off the inaugural season of the Overwatch League.
But it looks like the Boston Uprising are too busy trying to take the point. That's the Widow Duel one. Again, Philadelphia Fusion.
Widow Duels, man.
Striker, though, lands a big triple on the barrage there. The Graviton helping. Both supports are caught together. That's what they needed, but Carpe strikes in again. Killing's also being
Carpe!
What are you doing? This is a funny move.
Going in favor of the Gladiators. Another hack trying to come through from hydration onto agility, as we know how devastating the hack is now.
Dude, Fissure was cracked.
He's got another jump. He gets knocked back. Barrage in. This is a bit ballsy. Fissure takes him down.
Again, you don't really see that anymore. Like, that's what made Overwatch League feel insane. Like, Overwatch being played at a level where you couldn't even fathom what they were trying to play. You just saw Winston. Maybe Winston's kind of do that, but I don't really see it like that. Maybe it's because of the level I'm at or rank I'm at, but like, you don't see these dudes flying off the map, chasing Faras, slapping them around and getting mad kills. You don't see Widows popping off like that anymore. Like, dude, there was something electric about Overwatch. Oh my God.
Bishop, not many Widowmakers would go for this play.
Yeah, but Pinewood,
and he just absolutely nails it here. Even fishing it, what a flick.
Oh,
beautiful.
I think it was initially pitched as like, NFL for esports, and it seemed a little far-fetched, but there was some part of you that wanted to believe that. I still remember the moment of loading up opening night. I think it was San Francisco versus Valiant or something, 300K viewers on Twitch, and like the show's getting started up, and it's hard to see that number and not be like, dang, this really could be something.
Oh, the inaugural season was just unmatched. The energy that it brought, all the new fans it brought in, because it not only brought new fans to the game, but to competitive esports.
XQC again.
I like this with the Gladiators. This is cute. They're gonna try and circle around. The Spitfire, want to interrupt this a little bit here. Where are you going? Where are you? Oh, the high ground. Yeah. Oh, this is so nasty. Shulfor's chilling in spawn. I'm gonna call this the merry-go-round because it makes me laugh.
What is happening?
Switches to the Widowmaker at just the right time. Closer drops down, and it's a day in the shooting range for Lane Roberts.
But in spite of all the excitement, passionate fans, and avid supporters, there were questions too. Blizzard was promising more than any esports league in history. A city-based model with home and away games, new stadiums, and more infrastructure than anything that had come before. Could they really pull it off?
We think with the Overwatch League and the city-based format, which is not just unique for esports, a league where Shanghai plays Los Angeles in the regular season has never been done in sports either. It's really the first of its kind, and we think it's going to be something really special for a lot of years to come.
Personally, I was a little bit worried because it sounded like a logistical nightmare. They were aiming very high, and being able to reach to the goal that they wanted with everybody just traveling, considering the logistical nightmares, again, as I said earlier, with the venues, with the visas, with preparations and so on, it was a tough dream to achieve.
There's obviously a huge fan base out there that wants to engage with this content live, wants to go and attend events and feel like they're a part of the global community celebrating the best gamers in the world.
Overwatch is a global
Jonah, holy,
played all over the world. That's why it was important to us to have a global league. We have a huge audience in the U.S., but we also have a huge audience in China and Korea and France.
Bitcoin at the time, Bitcoin was $8,000, by the way. That tells you a little bit of something about the times. Oh my goodness, if I invested a little bit more in Bitcoin at that time. Ugh.
In the UK, Brazil, all over the world.
It was just really getting hyped up to a point of like, this has got to be bigger. And I think even though there was conversations after the announcement, when they got kind of quiet, there was conversations of people being like, they have to be having a hard time setting this up logistically and money-wise and selling it to people.
But in the early years, the league blew up. New and returning fans tuned in and fell in love with something genuinely hype.
Is this the secret weapons for the London Spitfire? Is this the answer to their problem? Neptuno's down again. That heralds disaster.
God.
Fusion and Carpe wasn't far behind. Prophet.
God.
He's killed 4 players now on his own.
6v6 needs to come back fast.
Prophet finds 5 kills on this traitor, and you better believe that's enough.
Like again, first of all, let's get through this ad real quick.
I plant this if my garden doesn't.
Like 6v6 was, chaotic, but in such a very good way. Like until the meta started getting really boring, 6v6 was just so good. Let me get to this. 6v6 was so good. Like it was just electric. Everything was crazy fun. Everything was crazy fast. Sometimes it was miserable. Don't get me wrong, but like it was such a blast to play during that time. But like they were talking about, that overhead must have been demonic. Oh my goodness! Like you have to pay for all these people to get their visas. You have to pay for all the planes. You got to travel. You got and that's a whole thing. You have to house these players. Like, oh my, health insurance. Like, that's just talking about like that lower player, getting them to move around. Like I said, those stadiums, the staff, the overhead must have been ridiculous. So like the margins that they were working on couldn't have been that easy to kind of deal with. It really couldn't. Like, dude, I don't know. Like it provided for a nice atmosphere and it provided for a very nice like moment in time. But again, like I'm sure they're going to talk about it a little bit further on. Like, COVID, like when that popped off, that must have killed everything. That's when things started to get real slippery, I'm sure. And then Overwatch 2 coming out, and then people having to adjust to that format, teams being moved around, players not being part of the mix as they used to be. Like, that must have been a nightmare. And like with things like this, with insane amounts of overhead and insane amounts of, things to keep track of, one thing could, kill you. But we're talking about 2 things, 3 things. Like, you're talking about one being a global thing and another thing being like, oh, your product is a different product. I mean, a lot of that could really stop you in your tracks. I mean, I can't see how it could go any other way for the Overwatch League.
But Overwatch as a game was struggling more and more with balance and meta issues.
My goodness.
Slowly but surely souring the fan base on the league. And
Me.
a particularly notorious offender was Goats.
As we saw sort of season 2 come around and, players starting to really orbit around a very safe way to play, we had the Goats meta sport, which was a composition that featured no DPS players.
I think we're just going to focus on basics, just play Goats. And
This is just
No DPS. 0 DPS. 0 DPS. None. So all those Widowmaker shots, all those pop-off moments, say goodbye. You're seeing the most calm comps ever. Like, I remember playing Zenyatta at the time to feel something. Like, I got a lot of Zenyatta hours during that time.
Teams, but London with that sound barrier looking to end this fight.
Look at this.
There's no.
It's like a
one
tug
is
of
dying
war.
Anywhere on this, Birdwing's got another grab. The second into the fight, gonna catch several again. Follow up still not.
All
quite
cooldown
there.
management.
Transcendence able to keep him alive, and now finally someone dies, and it happens to be Prophet.
And that's Goats in a nutshell. From the viewing perspective, it was certainly boring to see the same
Oh my
heroes,
gosh.
on every map in every match, right? I do
Goats,
feel like
Goats.
that's something that could have been dealt with a lot sooner than it was. We needed a patch, and it didn't come for whatever reason.
We do see the
Horrible.
Outlaws are going to pull out Dante's Tracer. This has been some of the things that
You see how
Outlaws have
excited?
been waiting for.
You see how excited people were to see a different comp. But watch this is about to happen. I'm sure it's about to happen after like a few attacks. First of all, Temple of Noob is annoying as heck. But anyway, let's see what happens.
Good Tracer player on Houston. It's Jake on the far. This combo's worked well for them before, but as soon as they see the defensive setup, they will just simply swap it away. Crucial time lost here for the Outlaws.
You see, it was immediate. They're like, as soon as you can't have fun. You see Goats, you can't beat Goats unless you play Goats. And the fans were like, dude, finally, like some variation, something. And it was immediately pulled back. And they wasted time doing that. Like, it hurt them to do that. Like, come on, dude. It sucked so bad.
The fans give the fans here in the studio give their opinion.
Well, you want your team to win, right? They're going to have to play what's meta.
Chat, I cannot imagine what it's like to be a pro player right now. Chat to chat, I want you to think of this, okay? People and pro players scrim this meta probably 6 to 8 hours a day.
And I think that after a while we realized that was maybe not really conducive to exciting gameplay, or at least a varied array of different gameplay styles.
Trash.
So there's definitely a dark patch in season 2 where DPS were not necessary.
Goats wasn't the only thing the community found repetitive, though. As the Overwatch League became more and more commercialized, some players and teams began to feel redundant. That personal touch, the magic that drew in so many people at the start, was beginning to fade.
So I think over time, the league lost a lot of its personality. Like, it just started to feel very bland. And, there were so many teams as well. There was like 20 teams. And it was just like, do I care about Team 18 playing Team 17? No, not really. And even again, like I said, there wasn't much to distinguish that match from any other match.
True.
More and more people began to feel that the fan experience just wasn't the same, and negative sentiments began to spread throughout the league. Some people started to question the future of the whole enterprise.
I've seen people say, well, Goats is dead, and now it's just double sniper, and that's going to be terrible. Or, oh, now everybody's just going to play McCree. And at a certain point, I'm like, what the hell do you people want?
So, in other words,
poor Kaplan. Because there's that, dude, again, what they were competing against, especially those devs at the time, they were competing against the magic of the earliest moment. Like, you're competing against those electric moments that you saw in the past. Like, it's very difficult to compete with that. And at some point, it just became too big. And when I say too big, it was too much scaling and not enough filling. Like, it's very hollow. It felt very hollow at some point. yeah, like I don't blame Jeff for being a little bit frustrated dealing with this. But I mean, like you saw, they were starting to scale it out, making it more commercial and all those things. It just didn't feel like home anymore. It didn't feel exciting. And, GOAT's really, like, I'm telling you, I don't think they stated it was GOAT's and they're talking about the scaling and all this stuff, but they are not, like, I think they're understating how much GOAT's kind of sucked the life out of the game at that point in time. They just took way too long. And if people see a flaw, like Helldivers 2, like it was a very magical moment. Like everybody was in it, everybody loved it, everybody was playing it, everybody was about for Earth, for Super Earth, democracy, kill the bugs, kill the robots. Everybody was excited. But once that Sony thing happened, then the magic kind of disappeared a little bit. And then, once that magic disappears, they started nerfing weapons and people hated that. Like, it's a cycle. Like, as soon as something negative happens and you destroy the magic of something, it starts to get ugly. And it's hard to regain that type of feeling that you have in the past because it's not real. Really, it's not real. The rose-tinted glasses, the love, once that's taken off and they kind of look at the product, it's really difficult to get that magic back. So Jeff Kaplan did his best. I don't know what took so long on GOATs. But, I don't blame him for being frustrated, confused, and not knowing how the heck to approach this at this point. And then the league, I mean, you got these people, like they said, it's 20 teams. I cared about the team I like. Like Washington Justice, I wanted to buy a jersey for him, but I kind of held off on it. One, because it was expensive. I didn't have the money for it at the time. But, two, it was like, am I going to really sit here and watch them play GOATs? And my team wasn't even particularly that good. So it was like, I'm going to watch my mid-team play GOATs when the players on that team are very good at Cassidy. Like, Corey was very good at hit scans and stuff. Like, yeah, he's playing Zarya, but I mean, like, it's not what you came here for. Sinatra, you came to see him play Tracer. Like, you don't want to see him play Zarya, even though he made it electric in his own way because he's such a talented player. It wasn't really doing that well. So again, that magic, that rose-tinted glasses, when that effect is gone, like, be careful. If you're a game dev out there, or you make something magical, be careful because as soon as that magic's gone, it's very hard to get people back after that. Like, it's very hard.
You don't want him to eat all the ults in the game like D.Va.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
There are these moments of regret that you have as a game developer.
True.
And perhaps eating everybody's ult is one of those.
But there was a big change on the horizon for the Overwatch League, just not one that any of the fans wanted. The decision to take the league's broadcasts from Twitch to YouTube was instantly controversial, especially after reports that they left a $90 million deal behind.
The Twitch deal collapses, and then what Blizzard do is a deal with YouTube to put everything exclusively on YouTube, which caused a ton of problems.
No.
Because really, you want your esport on Twitch, if I'm totally honest.
I was not able to speak publicly about OWL while
No.
I worked at Twitch for obvious reasons. But you better believe that I was the guy in every f***ing meeting going, this is stupid and you're all stupid.
He should be that mad, actually. Like, and that's the problem with working in corporate. Like, if you work in corporate, it does not help. It does not behoove you to be too loud about the dissent that you have. If the company's going a certain way and you're too loud, and you're, like he said, this is stupid, you're all stupid. First, I'm sure he said, this is stupid. We should not be doing this. And he was like, this is my position. Like, I've been working at this company. I believed in this product. This is not a good idea. I'm sure he said that in a very corporate, safe manner. And then once they stop, like, obviously, like, once you start doing something in a company and you speak out a certain way, you stick out like a nail, guess what happens when you're a nail that sticks out too high? You get hammered down. So when you say you're all stupid, that's what it becomes. Like, they're not listening to you. And you know where this is going, but you can't stop the train because it's a whole train and you're one person. And you know what happens? The show's going to go on. So they're going to take you out of your position. They're going to move you out of the way, make you less effective in whatever you're doing. And they're going to keep moving the direction he's going. So he's super frustrated. And at the time, Twitch, like, nowadays, it's a little different. Like, if they did the YouTube deal nowadays, I don't know if exclusive is ever the right thing to do these days, but at least it makes a little bit more sense now. Like, people watch live streams on YouTube, but back then, nobody was really watching anything on YouTube. Like, I'm streaming on YouTube exclusive right now because all my stuff is here. Like, I don't want to pay for extra stuff, and like, I need to like really figure out how to use regular OBS so I can just do it right. Got to bootstrap myself. But you know, like, you picking one and not it being Twitch was a mistake at that time. It was just a really big mistake. You're going to a barren land, wasteland. Nobody's gonna do that, man. Nobody's gonna watch your broadcast on YouTube at that time. So, yeah, man, I can see the frustration. I can understand the frustration there.
It did not feel good. I'll tell you why it didn't feel good. Because that league cost a lot of fucking money, and a year later, 11 of my fucking staff was laid off.
You see?
Overwatch
You
has
see?
the highest average minute.
You see what I mean? Like I told you, like, it's like working for corporate. Nowadays, in the past, it might have been a safe feeling, nice time. You know, you're working, you can build your way up. But now it's about growth, scale, and the Overwatch League was an attempt at growing. And what they did was they made a gamble. And what happens when corporate gambles, people lose their jobs. Like, people lose their jobs. So it's just not a good feeling, man.
Minute audience of any channel on Twitch. What we've learned is a couple of things. One is
And they're
you
number
need to go
one.
for the biggest audience, right? And if we were to do a do-over, I would say let's not go to YouTube or go exclusive just yet.
Yes.
Dude, there's also a big chance that the OS League is just gonna die completely. Like that's a big chance.
You want to learn new data skills because,
Dude, I mean, like, it's not rocket science. But for some reason, I don't know why it's rocket science for some corporate. Like, I think like the CEOs, the higher level people, they're married to an idea, and they like, oh, 160 million. Look, what can we do with that? Like, they don't think about other logistics. They just see the big cash. They see they have to pay for all this crap that they promised, and like $160 million is probably a good way to get your way out of that scenario. It's probably a decent way to kind of mitigate some of those charges, but they don't think about, what about the fan base? Will they follow us? Like, I feel like they make the assumption that since we're producing the only league for Overwatch, I mean, people are gonna have to watch us, right? They're gonna have to follow us. It's not the case. It's just so not the case.
Guys, we've been watching the coronavirus for weeks now.
And there's that part.
Continuing to see the market action trade around
Too
the
many
updates
things.
we get, but the coronavirus is also hitting esports, as popular gaming leagues like Activision Blizzard's Overwatch League and Tencent Holdings' Riot Games.
Because it seems the coronavirus has spread to South Korea and
Too much.
more countries as well, the Seoul Dynasty homestands will be canceled. And when they got word of the virus spreading, they had to speed run packing all of their stuff in order to make a last-minute flight back. This is scary stuff, man.
COVID struck at the worst possible time for Overwatch League. We were just moving into what was the long-term dream of the Overwatch League, was to have homestands, to really make this city-based model work.
There's more to come.
It's too many things.
What's that? I think, yep, it's the Envoy Excel take on the London Spitfire.
If that had been able to happen, that would have been magical for the Overwatch League, and it could have been an incredibly different future from what we're seeing now, because that was the grand vision.
There were a lot of changes with the matches moving online. What was the biggest takeaway for you guys in terms of adjusting to these new situations?
Obviously, being in our own rooms, you know, we're on TeamSpeak together, so it's not really as humane, like I would say.
Despite some arguments that COVID actually
that's so
extended
intense.
the OWL's lifespan, ultimately it put the biggest, most interesting thing about the league on the back burner indefinitely. And that was devastating. Eventually,
That's too much. Like I said, like, it sometimes organization or sometimes certain things only, like certain like events, organizations, Overwatch leagues, they're holding on. Like, they make it look like it's a very stable thing, but it's holding on by a few assumptions, a couple of assumptions. If you have a bad game, which they had at the time, that's a problem. Like, that will kill your viewership. That will kill your league itself. Over time, it'll suffocate it. But when you start, like, money, overhead, like you having to pay for this, moving to YouTube, that's three things that's so difficult to keep up with. Then you have COVID. Like, that's game over. Like, that chokes most things. Like, they're lucky they survived that long. Like I said, they say COVID probably extended Overwatch League's life, just a little bit longer. Just to think about that, like, dude, it was on a thread for a while. They scaled too far, too fast, and they made too many bets. They gambled too much.
The pandemic began to ease off. Maybe that could have been a chance to see the league return to its original plans, but instead, Activision Blizzard had to deal with another sort of illness, the kind that rots companies from the inside.
A frat boy culture. That is how Activision Blizzard is now being described here in this new lawsuit filed by the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing.
The agency alleges that male employees play video games during the workday while delegating responsibilities to female employees, engage in sexual banter, and joke openly about rape, among other things.
So they're making the girls do all of the work while they talk about rape and harassing them.
I saw a lot.
Dude, that's too many things. That's too many things. You understand? Like, it's not like the game being sucky was like a piece of it. It's just a tiny piece. And they just started, like I said, that rose-tinted glasses, once you take it off, it's very hard to put them back on. And they were really trying to tell you to throw them glasses across the room. At that time, it was just L after L after L after L. I'd say I don't get it, but at this point, it's like human nature. Like keep an eye on whatever creator that you see, or keep an eye on whatever, channel that you watch. Like, over time, once some glasses come off, you're going to start seeing the flaws left and right. It's going to get ugly. It always gets ugly. Always falls apart. Always. For everyone.
A lot of people just want to boycott the league when that news started coming out. All of the internal Blizzard struggles really just did more damage, and the sponsorship end as well. We had all these different sponsors, and now poof, it's all gone.
The danger here is YouTube go, you know what? We don't want to be associated with you because T-Mobile don't want to be associated with you. Coke don't want to be associated with you.
Brands like that were not putting money in anymore. And of course that's going to hurt, the bottom line. If you've got teams all around the world and you're spending money to bring DJ Khaled to perform at your finals, and sponsors are pulling out.
DJ Khaled? I didn't understand that one either. It's such a weird time. It was so weird. This is so weird.
Because of the news that's breaking that your company might have been like an absolutely horrific workplace for women to be in.
No
I don't
way.
understand how you could then
What are you doing?
keep an expensive esports league up while that's going on.
For a long time, I think they've just been a horrible company. They have not been that golden age Blizzard people like to pretend that they still are. It is a company that is so far out of touch and so corrupt that it's gross.
It was a bummer. It was a bummer to see, that happen to League, because, as far as I'm aware, that part of the whole machinery at Blizzard Activision didn't really deserve that hit, So they certainly felt the effects, right? The sponsors leaving through, no fault of their own. So I think they sort of ended up being kind of like secondary victims to the whole situation, right? Where, they were also very negatively affected by all this happening.
And what's even perhaps more sad to acknowledge is that a lot of devs that you might find to be heroes, I find to be heroes of mine, may have known about this all along and maybe even participated in it. It's horrible. And
rose tint, like what you see, this face right here, he could be dramatic or whatever. You can think about, but this is what it looks like when the magic is gone. That's it. Once you got your fans, you got the people you look up. Like he said, he looks up to these people. Understandably so. Like, they created some of the best IPs that you ever played ever. They're making gaming history. They make gaming what it is today. Maybe not the worst aspect. They are contributing to it now. But like, Diablo, Overwatch, World of Warcraft, like these Hearthstone, like all these amazing IPs. And what you're seeing right now is that you figured out that these dudes were doing it by any means necessary. Any means necessary. Like once that magic's gone, people don't want to support you anymore. It doesn't matter how good your product is sometimes. If the magic isn't there, it's very human. Like, you don't want to support it. You don't want to be a part of it. Like, It's kind of sad. It really is kind of sad.
Even as public outrage over the harassment suit and internal demons threatened to tear Blizzard apart, players were getting fed up with the lack of meaningful changes. Worse yet, Blizzard seemed to be focusing on Overwatch 2 instead of looking for ways to improve the original game.
They were moving over to the Diva, just going to be duplicating that up, and Jets now finally unleashing that support ultimate he was saving. It's more than enough to try and clear them away, and Violet falling means there's going to be a lack of heals. That sounds as well.
Maybe this is going to be a hot take. I think this shit is the worst thing to happen to Overwatch. This shit is f***ed up. It is not fun. It is not skill. It is fucking bullshit. It is dog shit. This is so
He's not
bad.
happy.
I don't know, because people are going to say, oh, what about Brig release? Or what about fucking goats? Or no, this is so bad.
There was no lights.
Dude! Why would they even... I know why. I know why they would make Overwatch 2 clean slate, reset the balancing, because it was very hard to balance the game at the past. And then, eShop, they sold us on PvE. But they had too many things going on. What is that? 4 or 5 different problems? How can a league survive? The league itself survive? It's surprising that Overwatch itself is surviving, but the leagues around it, come on, dude, there's too many things. There was too many things at once.
In that tunnel, that tunnel was pitch black. We were doing more than fumble in the dark. We were running into walls. It was just double shield. There was no hope. There was no communication. Zero, nothing at all.
And once again, Blizzard seemed fixated on the wrong problems.
Overwatch has always been played with 2 teams of 6 players. Overwatch 2 will be played with 2 teams of 5 players.
Holy shit!
I think it's going to suck in the long term for off-tank players, because inevitably
Off-tank,
it will mean that we're probably going to see some tank players getting shafted and going to be losing their jobs in some capacity.
I would say it looks better than it did before, but there's a long fucking way to go. There's no way that this is the work that had been done in 2 years. There's just no way.
A lot of people were just kind of frustrated.
2 years.
Losing out on what we had in Overwatch 1. One of the biggest draws that they had for the game was the fact that it was a 6v6 arena shooter, not a 5v5 like every other game out there is kind of been. So I think there's a lot of disgruntled people losing out on things like that, not wanting some of their favorite characters to be reworked, because you might have to learn a completely different play style depending on what hero you like to play.
You're literally cutting an entire role. It's like baseball being like, now we don't have a shortstop. All of a sudden they cut a role out and teams have to adjust.
There is a community that wants a lot of Overwatch 1 back, and they think a lot of the magic was lost in 5v5. Whether or not that can be fixed with tanks being updated or supports being nerfed, we'll see. We'll see through the next year. If it doesn't get better the next year, I think more and more people will start to realize maybe we did have it better.
And even when Overwatch 2...
Keyword, he said, the magic is gone. You see? It's the magic. It's lightning in a bottle. When it comes to stuff like this, game-changing, big IPs, lightning in a bottle. Mickey Mouse is a lightning in a bottle. Disney, the only thing Disney did around that was take old fairy tales and apply them. But Mickey Mouse was brand new. Lightning in a bottle. Overwatch, lightning in a bottle. If you mess with the formula too much, lightning is gone. Open the cork. It's out of here. It's over. So, a lot has been damaged. And as you can see, they're trying to talk about bringing 6v6 back because they're trying to capture that lightning. If they can get the lightning in the bottle, oh my goodness. If they can get a lightning in a bottle again, I don't know. That'd be a game changer. It really would be. But for them, they're trying to do that. They're going backwards. Going backwards now. It's kind of crazy. They created this whole new game, added some shaders, added some new heroes, but they're rolling it back some. It's interesting to see. There's some lessons in it, for real.
did come out, the promised and highly anticipated PvE mode never materialized at all. The player base started to spiral.
With everything we've learned about what it takes to operate this game at the level that you deserve, it's clear that we can't deliver on that original vision for PvE that was shown in 2019.
There was no need for Overwatch 2. It was a cash grab marketing scam that made them abandon the first game for years and
He's a little harsh. It's not a scam necessarily. I mean, it's a product for sure. You got a product. Maybe they promise you PvE, but it's free. The game was free. So I mean, like, maybe it's a scam a little bit if you want to be very harsh and being like, oh, they didn't give you what they said, but the entry fee was 0. So it's a little hard to sell it as a scam. A bad decision? Poor decision making? Not necessary. Arguments can be made.
just try to cash grab reskins and upgraded shop. Anybody who tries to tell you that this has not been the biggest manipulation and scam in multiplayer gaming history is lying through their teeth.
Crisis after crisis
Not lying.
had eroded
Not lying.
the
I'm just
foundation of the
not using that hard language.
A lethal combination of unrealized potential, unfulfilled promises, and unrelenting monetary issues threatened to snuff out what was supposed to be the most important thing esports has ever done. As reports of mass layoffs on the esports side began to surface, it was time to admit that the death of the Overwatch League was no longer an if, but rather a when.
More so than anything else, the legacy of the league is going to be, as sad as it may be, a legacy of failure of doing, as an American say it, biting off more than you can chew.
Yeah.
Really. Maybe going a little bit too big without really having the framework, the infrastructure, the management. I mean, I've heard so many horror stories about Overwatch League management, you know, whether it's the orgs or the teams. And I think that, like, obviously it's a bit of a caution that, you know, you need to make sure that you have the foundation, the fan support, the teams, the leadership that you need to be able to run something this big.
It doesn't help that the league was only in place for 2 years before a global pandemic happened. Like, it doesn't help that in the midst of that, they were behind the scenes working on a not sequel, then sequel, everything changed kind of thing. You know, it is kind of like a perfect storm of shit that would kill an esports league.
Anything.
Going into an office.
It would kill any league. Just too many things back to back. Like I said, they kind of hit on everything, you know, kind of all the points. Like, built too big, too fast. It's hollow. Like, the actual foundation, and you have this is where they built it out to. The foundation is here. There's nothing but space in between here. If the top of your structure falls, it collapses on everything. Like, and there's nothing to catch it. If the foundation was closer, yeah, you would lose something, but it wouldn't be a catastrophic failure. Like, you know, again, corporate plays with growth, especially, you know, because these were CEOs of other things. This is one big gaming CEO talking to a football guy for funding. These were football team owners that they went to own these things. They were just taking their little play money and they were throwing it at this thing to see if they can make mad money. It's just how it works. You invest in something, maybe a gamble. You got a budget for your little gamble. Some people got a little bit of budget. Some people got a lot of bit of budget to play with. They took their play with money. They see what they can get out of it. And once it stops being fundable, stops being nice, Coca-Cola's not with you, T-Mobile's not with you anymore, when the money's not there anymore, they're pulling back. They're pulling back. The collapse happens. Like, it's just too much. It's just too much. With barring all the other nonsense that was going on with this. It's just too many things at once, man.
Seem as if Blizzard was ready to announce its plans for Overwatch esports at or around the 2023 Toronto Finals. But the writing was on the wall. This was going to be the league's last hurrah.
It's probably better for the health of Overwatch esports and probably better for the health of the players that it's dying, just because the format in its own, it's just not self-sustainable. It was inevitable at some point, so rather than later.
I think it's probably a lesson for people in terms of the ambition behind like what esports is. I think that like people presumably expected Overwatch League to become like a multi-million like sports rival. I think it just can't hit the heights that maybe we expected for it. And I think probably when you start to put in buy-ins of like 20, 30 million, the return on investment was going to be difficult.
Overwatch League has been a very ambitious project from day one, and a decent part of that ambition has been fulfilled. A lot of that has been left on the table, and you know, in an alternate timeline, we can only imagine what that would have looked like.
I think Overwatch League will go down as it could have been amazing
ended up being underwhelming.
Yep.
Because, you know, the idea was great that there should be a proper league for esports and a proper managed ecosystem for pro players where they feel job security, where they feel safety, where they can kind of grow without fear of, well, if we don't win this tournament, we're out of a job.
I think, unfortunately, that people are going to look at the Overwatch League as an example of what not to do. And it's hard not to look at it that way from how the league has went.
I had such high expectations and high hopes for this when I started. I mean, I moved halfway across the world for it. I completely changed my career for Overwatch. You know, I really believed in it. Given everything that's happened with the league, you know, teams are already pulling out, right? You know, I mean, it's probably better if Overwatch League goes away after this finals. And that's, I want to be clear that that's not saying Overwatch esports should go away. I think Overwatch esports can go through kind of a, you know, a resurrection almost, right? Where it's like,
I don't know what it would look
we're
like.
going to be able to start building things again in sort of a more grassroots, genuine esports way.
The Overwatch League gave orgs the option to vote on whether or not they wanted to continue playing in the current system or cut.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Like, I agree that this falling could offer an opportunity to kind of rebuild, but I don't know. I don't know how, like I said, the magic's gone and the product isn't as good. So, you know, it's not magical anymore. It's not the thing anymore. So, it's kind of a hard thing to do. They have a couple of Rubicons to cross before they're able to say, hey, we got a functioning grassroots league again. And maybe it won't be the same scale as this. Maybe it won't be done the same way. But I don't know. Like, I don't know how excited people are to, you know, do this again, to play Overwatch like that again. There's so many different competitors. Everybody's scattered left and right. It's a new generation of gamers now. It's not the same. The gamers that are playing this, like dudes like me, a little older now. There's a lot younger people playing this. I don't know how they feel about Overwatch. I don't know what their competition is. I don't know. I just don't know. So, you know, a Phoenix moment or resurrection moment, it's a tough one. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you can make it. I don't know if it can work its way up back to what this was again. I don't know. I don't know.
Their losses, take a payout, and withdraw. They all chose the latter, nailing shut the Overwatch League's coffin for good.
They are all amazing individuals and really did deserve better. Unfortunately, though, the powers that be that were much stronger than them. And I think Overwatch could have been amazing in that department, but they really fumbled the bag. And they didn't fumble it once. They fumbled it, and then they fumbled it again. It's insane how many bad decisions Overwatch League made over the years.
The biggest swing taken in the history of esports turned out to be a failure. Overwatch esports will, of course, persevere, but the gargantuan, ambitious Overwatch League that was supposed to change esports as we know it is no more.
With this game and with its esports, you just see massive potential, but then you just see failure to deliver. And it's always from upper management positions, and it's always dropping people who are on the ground actually doing the good work. But there was definitely interest, and this is what makes it sad, I think, with Overwatch League.
The community remains as passionate as it's ever been. The fans that stuck with Overwatch through thick and thin are still here, cheering for what's coming next.
The hype that it was generating at the start, the overall interest was so crazy, and I think with this being such a unique model, there was so much potential for it to really thrive. Obviously, in the end, it was too overly ambitious, and people are going to look back at that. We knew what this league could have been. We saw it in the first season, even the second for a little bit. It could have been something amazing, and like there were a lot of special moments. It really could have blown the esports scene away and be something legendary that people would remember forever. Despite the disappointment I might feel in some aspects, it's always good to remember that it delivered some special memories.
It did.
And that a lot of these players aren't to blame for any of this. They worked their hearts off for this, and it was amazing, honestly. Even as it goes away, I think we can all kind of cherish these memories. I think it's an esport that kind of captured some special things that no other esport would be able to do.
People cared. People cared. Like, you know, and I still love Overwatch. Don't get me wrong. It's still, I play it obviously all the time. I make a lot of content on it. So, you know, it's a blast. Like, even with the 5v5 format, like, again, I don't expect any game to be perfect, and I kind of accept it for what it is. But, like, these moments, you know, it's very hard to capture that again. I think that like, and this is kind of like the lessons I've learned just growing up, like just growing. Like these things you can't avoid. As time goes on, things change. The things you loved as a kid that have been around your whole childhood, or things that you've loved when you're in early 20s or your late teens, that you thought would be there forever. You're not just leagues, not just games, but like people even, they fall off. Things happen. Like life is a thing that's just changing. So, for me, I accept those changes and I just try to enjoy the thing for what it is. So if I can only enjoy Overwatch for an hour and a half a day or an hour and a half a time, then so be it. So be it. I'm glad that the Overwatch League happened. It made me love playing games more. It made me believe that there's something more. And I truly believe when they shot for the stars on this one and they failed, I think failure is also a good thing. It shows you not what to do. It shows you the wrong things. So if you're falling in those paths, maybe don't do it the same. If you're going to make a mistake, if you're going to make the same mistake they did, maybe do it a little different. Add a little funk to it. If you're going to have to fail, just, fail with your own little pizzazz. I mean, it is what it is. So, yeah, Overwatch League. Disaster? Yeah, there's too many things. There's too many bad things that happened. Back to back to back to back. When I say bad things, it's things that are out of your control. So worldwide pandemics, things that are in your control, managing metas, being true to your audience, like not pivoting to YouTube too fast, making those types of decisions, not scaling too fast, not being abusive in the workplace. Like these are things that are in people's control, So yeah, Overwatch League, rise and fall, man. Sad a little bit, but again, this is just a lesson in life. So yeah, since this is, I'm live obviously, but it's not even that obvious. I'm live, but since this is a video, I'm cutting out. Leave a comment in the comment section. Tell you how you feel about the Overwatch League if you have any feelings about it. If you watch this video to this point, my goodness, it's like about an hour. My God, way to turn a 28-minute video to an hour. Like button. If you didn't like it and you're still here, you're a psycho. You're a psycho. Leave the dislike button. Hit it anyway. I don't care. I'm glad you watched this far. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, make sure you subscribe. Hit the bell. I do stream a bunch of times. And yeah, Overwatch League. Kind of sad, but, it is what it is. It is what it is.